How did a coach have $956,000 in 10 weeks? Zero new leads, zero new ads, zero new followers. And I want you to sit with that for a second as I walk you through exactly how he did that. Because I know what part of someone's brain might be doing when they hear that. They're looking for, is there a catch? They're looking for an asterisk. They're looking for, oh, he must have had a bigger audience, be spending more on ads, or must have done some huge launch. There's no catch, there's no asterisk. And I'm gonna walk you through exactly how it happened. Because the system this coach used, anybody can replicate. And I wanna help you do the same exact thing. My name is Michael Chu, and I've spent the last several years working with million-dollar coaches to install what I call the LTV Method, a system that unlocks revenue from the clients, the leads, and the relationships that you already have. We've installed this in hundreds of businesses, and we've helped over 36 coaches cross 7 to 8 figures. And Bastion's story is one of the clearest illustrations I've ever seen of what's possible when you stop looking for the next lead source and start looking at what you already have in your business right now. When Bastion came into our world, his business looked a lot like million-dollar coaching businesses look at that level. He was generating consistent front-end sales. He was really good at what he did. Clients got results, revenue was real, but it felt like it had a ceiling and there was a lot of volatility to it. He was doing what most coaches at this level do, looking for the answer, solely reliant on front-end sales. What better ad strategy, content strategy, what better offers? And he'd made some progress, but the fundamental structure of his revenue hadn't changed. He was still starting close to zero every month, still dependent on new sales to maintain his current level, still running what felt like a revolving door type of business. But when he did our diagnostic together, which you can grab for yourself in the description of this video, what he found was what I almost always find. His LTV was low relative to his CAC, or what I believe his LTV should have been. Even though he was doing millions of dollars per year, his monthly revenue and his ability to cover payroll and expenses every month was reliant on how did sales go this past month. I don't know if you've noticed that. It is a pretty stressful business to run that is reliant on one revenue source every single month to determine whether or not you had a good revenue month. And he had clients who had gotten results, and then after they went through the program, they oftentimes would disappear or move on to something else with really nowhere to go next. Now, if you asked him if he was doing retention, he would have told you yes, but the truth is, after he learned the LTV method, he would tell you that he wasn't, and he wasn't doing it optimized by any means of the imagination. He had great relationships with his clients as they went through the first phase program, but he had no real back-end architecture, no structured next step for clients who are ready to go deeper in a clear path on how to take the next step. In other words, he had built a business that had the potential to earn hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars more in revenue. He just hadn't built the system to collect it consistently, therefore leaving millions of dollars of actual revenue on the business, making it harder to get to the high 7 or 8 figures level, even though that was his goal. So what did we install with Bastion and his team over 3 days in person that led to $956,000 over the next 10 weeks? We did 3 things. I'm gonna walk you through what those 3 things are. So the first thing we did was we built out and we installed what we would call his Ascension Roadmap architecture. Like when you get into college, it's very clear that you go from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year. In coaching programs, people join, but they don't have that same level of clarity about how their journey is gonna progress. So what we did with Bastion is we mapped out where every client relationship starts and how it would progress, and identified what people need at next level engagements. We built a back-end offer then that was aligned with where his best clients naturally wanted to go, what they were still struggling with after the first phase program, and made it a clear path for ascension from there. Not just a new product from scratch, just to have something to sell, not a bunch of complex offers just so you have more things to sell, but a clear, aligned, structured ascension roadmap that made it step-by-step for students to go through and get a long-term transformation. The second thing we installed was a systemized way to re-engage alumni. Most million-dollar coaches at that stage have hundreds, if not thousands of alumni and students they've worked with in the past. If those students just knew with clarity what the roadmap or the journey was after they finished their first phase program and how the next stages really served them at that level, they would be enthusiastic to take that next step. But most coaches were doing that ineffectively or didn't have it at all. In Bastion's case, we walked him through how to re-engage those alumni, people that he had already gotten results, people that already trusted him, and simply hadn't had a clear invitation about how to go deeper in their transformation or growth or progress with them into the next level. So we built what's called a re-engagement sequence, not a blast campaign, not a cheesy promo, but a personal, exclusive, value-led first outreach that re-engaged people he already had a relationship with to want to be open and excited to get back into his world. The third thing that we installed was a retention sales process. I see see so many coaches that tell me they're doing retention, leaving so much business on the table, doing a really poor job at this. And the question I ask them so often is, tell me about how robust your front-end sales process is. And they tell me about all these things, from VSLs to applications to proven scripts to sales trainings. Then when I ask them how their retention sales process is, it's nowhere close to as proven or systemized. And the reality is that retention sales, you think, would be easier because you already got them result and you already got a relationship with them. But they're also at a very different mindset at that point. And if your retention sales process isn't designed to meet that client where they're at, that's where people get really shocked with, I have a relationship, I got them a result. When I asked them about continuing to the next level, they said, I'm gonna try this on my own. I think I got it at this point. It leaves coaches really baffled about why their LTV and retention isn't quite where it should be, and they just settle for something below average. And so with Bastion, we built out a Ascension conversation framework for his active client. Every current client was now going through a structured, what we call future GPS conversation, a proven and facilitated dialogue about a student's next level goals and their next challenges and what they would want to work on next if there was a path to continue. These conversations didn't feel like a sales call and yet led to well above average retention sales. They felt like coaching, and because of that, and done the right way, they converted well above anything Bastion had ever experienced with retention up until that point. And what was the timeline of this all happening for Bastion? Him and his entire team got together in person for 3 days. We installed the roadmap, we created a clear game plan to re-engage alumni, and then we installed the actual Ascension sales system. All of that was done in 3 days. Things that he had told me he had been trying to figure out with his team for 3 months, if not even a couple years. Once that was installed, him and his team went and generated $956,000 in 10 weeks, generated millions over the first year, and became a foundation for a more stable business. And it was one of the key pillars that allowed him to break through the new revenue ceiling on his way to 8 figures. For $1 million coaches like Bastion, what did this all really mean for him? The first thing I want you to take from this, that revenue is not just this thing that you have to hustle for to get front-end sales. It's also this thing that exists right inside the business you already have with just better systems and a better model. Like Alex Hormozi talks about, to build a truly valuable business, you must have a really healthy CAC to LTV relationship. And most coaches I talk to know how to go get front-end sales, but they don't even really have a standard for what good LTV is. So when I ask them if they're doing retention, they say, yeah. They learn what retention really means. They go, oh, I'm not doing that. And then that's when they realize that there is $200,000, $500,000, or $1 million of revenue for them in their business right now without hustling harder or getting more sales. Because the truth is, every client you've ever served, every lead you've ever spoken to, and every relationship you've ever developed inside your business, there is revenue in those relationships right now that you have never accessed. Not because they don't want to buy from you, and not because the opportunity isn't there, because you never built the model to optimize for it and to actually tap into that revenue. The second thing I want you to take away from this is the fastest path to your next revenue milestone is almost never new traffic sources, especially if you're already at $1 million right now. Think about it. Where is the actual diminishing return on, I'm gonna send more DM, or I'm gonna post more content, or I'm gonna increase ad spend? If you're anything like me, after I got to $1 million, I did have this fear of like, how much bigger can I really get front-end sales to be? Even if I posted 8 times a day, or even if I had 3 setters instead of 2. The true monetization of your business is understanding how to maximize LTV from your audience, from your clients, and the network you already have. And this is what I mean when I say optimize or fix the model before you just go hustle harder to fuel it with more front-end sales. The most valuable businesses in the world get this. If you think about true billion-dollar empire, Netflix, Verizon, and big companies like that, they obsess over LTV and churn, not just front-end acquisition. The third insight I want you to take from this, and this one's really important, this is not a one-time play. What Bastion built inside his company in generating this $956K was not some special launch, was not just a one-time campaign. It was a system that now runs consistently in a way that a business knows that they are minimizing volatility because they are generating multiple 6 figures What Bastion built wasn't a one-time promotion or a special campaign. He built a system that can now run and produce predictably something inside his business that allows for more stability and sustainability. He now knows, and other million-dollar coaches have seen this same thing. When this system is installed, they can start every month, regardless of how marketing goes, regardless of how leads go, they can start off every single month knowing all of their expenses are covered, knowing they have 50K, 100K, 200K a month plus in what we call high ticket MRR, on top of the fact that this unlocks the next levels of revenue you're striving for. Every new client he brings into a system, he knows now is more valuable and more profitable to the scale of his actual organization, because he retains them longer, sends them into higher level programs, and generates recurring revenue from that one-time buy. And so the 956K was just the launch to this actual system, but the compounding of it and what happens month after month is what finally leads to what I like to call sustainable scale. Not scale that gets you to a new level, but then it drops the very next month, but sustainable scale being predictable and something that leads to a foundation for your business to be built to last. So if you consider yourself someone who does a pretty good job with front-end sales, it's allowed you to build your business to 500K, $1 million plus, and you're wondering why, maybe it's gotten to a point where you feel like your business has a ceiling. You've been stuck around the same revenue level for months, quarters, if not years. And the main thing you're trying to do to break through that ceiling are new acquisitions, more on ads, and something to get more front-end sales, and it's still not working. This is almost certainly why you have been stuck at that ceiling, and the fix isn't more leads, it's better LTV. So we've put together a free LTV diagnostic form. Couple minutes, fill in some of your numbers completely free, that shows you exactly where your biggest untapped revenue opportunity is right now. You'll see the link in the description below. You can click on it for free, plug in your business's data, and show yourself just how quickly your business can grow to the next level with a system like that. Whether it's your Ascension Roadmap, whether it's your retention system, and it'll help you identify, just like Bastion, whether it's dialing in your Ascension architecture, like your roadmap, how to re-engage and optimize the leads that you already have, or build out a more proven and more predictable retention sales process so you can optimize the revenue already inside your business. So go to the link to the description below, go ahead and take that and evaluate where there's so much growth inside your business right now. And if you're a coach between 100K to 200K a month already, wants to install this system with our team, reach out. We've done this hundreds of times with businesses just like yours. We know what it takes. We know what's possible on the other side, and you can click the links below.